So let me talk to you a little bit on what I prepared today was this concept that I created called the Alice effect. So you don't know what the Alice effect is, but you're about to hear all about that. And what we're going to focus is, how is AI changing the way that we buy? How do we service, find, and keep customers in new ways because of AI? And I'm going to touch on 3 points, which is how our expectations are changing, what it's doing to marketing, and what can you do differently if you want to make a change in your business on Monday morning. So that's what we're going to be at. So pause for a moment. You might be multitasking back there. I can see you. Good to see you. I just missed introducing you guys. Thanks for coming. Pause for a moment and think, if you can, for a time in your life, probably from your childhood, probably when you were growing up, when you had exceptional excitement about something. It might have been a trip or a special occasion. Maybe it was a gift that you were going to get. You were bursting with excitement and wonder about this thing. Do you have your thing?
For Sophie, it's the book launch.
I knew it. I liked you when I saw you. Mine was going to Disneyland. I was in 5th grade, had never been to Disneyland before. We lived in Phoenix. And I remember packing up the vehicle. It was stuffed with suitcases and people. We didn't have enough money to stay there, so we drove overnight. It was so exciting to get on the road. I remember going to the In-N-Out Burger just on the other side of the border from Arizona and having that, I thought it was delicious food, certainly at the time. And man, we arrived at Disneyland and it was blowing my mind. You know, remember that first time you're coming in, you can see the sights, the sounds, the smells. It's a really special place. It's not hyperbole. I love seeing the characters, and I can still remember the fireworks that first day at the end on Main Street. It's just an incredible, formative experience for me. And then just that fall, after I went into 6th grade, my class ended up also going to Disneyland. So I had never been, now I had been twice. And then to my surprise, my Little League also went that same year. I know. At the time, going to 3rd, I was Mickey'd out. I was castle fatigued. I didn't want any more pixie dust. I was done. And so I found that this was happening over and over again. My birthday that year, I'm going to date myself a little bit. Some of you might remember there was this gaming system called the Atari 2600. Oh yeah. I remember going over to friends' houses. We're playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders. I could not wait as to get one of my own. But then I got it, and to my surprise, just a few, short months later, there I was in the corner of my room collecting dust. And then I just hit on this, that wonder. It has a half-life, where we get so excited about something, but then it just becomes kind of like every day. And I was trying to figure out, why does that happen? Why does wonder have a half-life? Well, for me to figure this out, I had to go back, and it started with bones. There was a paleontologist that was trying to figure out if a species, like maybe the Tyrannosaurus rex, was the pinnacle of the time of the predator. Does that give them an advantage into the next era? I mean, it sort of makes sense, right? If you're best of breed, if you're best of class, shouldn't that make you more proficient to survive as things change? And it turns out, nope. And that's because as predators are getting faster, the prey are also getting smarter. Because everything is evolving at the same time in this co-evolutionary way. And that means that age is not an armor, and your experience is not insurance. So we're surviving into the next era. And this has a name. It was Van Dalen, was the paleontologist, and he called this the Red Queen effect. Because from the Lewis Carroll novels, there is a scene where the Red Queen has the soldiers running in place as fast as they can on the chessboard. And it turns out that in order for you to get to somewhere else, you have to run twice as fast as you are. So those dinosaurs, they just couldn't run quite that fast. And so they become obsolete over time. So keeping pace with everybody is also, while all these other things are changing at the same time, it's a co-evolutionary idea. Now, there's another character from the novels I bet you recognize, and that is the Alice. The Alice in the novels teach us something different from the Red Queen. The Red Queen says everybody is speeding up, but Alice says this, in the midst of all that menagerie, all those things going on, she said, I'm far too excited to be surprised by anything now. Does that remind you of what happened? It reminded me of what happened at Disneyland. It reminded me of the Atari 2600. We end up habituating those kinds of things. So the Red Queen is about living fast, and Alice is about us habituating it. It just is the wonder has a half-life effect. And that means that innovations itself, they're accelerating, but they're just making what we think is valuable from those innovations obsolete that much faster. Because the Alice and the Red Queen are in this battle. One of them is saying, innovate, 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 and the other one says, what have you done for me lately? This is happening not just with our customers, but also with our employees. So I was wondering, what about this Alice effect with AI? Do I see any evidence of that? Have you seen some of the things that the tools can do? Like maybe make yourself into an action figure? Have you seen that? Now being an academic, there's no way that I would ever use the tool to make myself into an action figure. I mean, I have a PhD after all. My reputation is that I should not be messing around with these things. I want to always have a professional ilk to what I'm doing. So of course I didn't use the tool to make myself into any of those things. Well, maybe I did. I also noticed that I worked a lot with family members too. This is sort of like the Alice effect called the Elvis effect. It's not quite as popular, but don't let that go. So the point is, as all of these things are evolving, today, if one of those images hits your inbox from your friend, it probably gets an eye roll, not a wow. So that is the Alice effect. We just get bored with this stuff. I remember at 16, I was selling those cell phones at Broadway Southwest. Anybody out there shopping at Broadway? And you know, just a few years later, they should become a paperweight. We don't want that technology that was the best of breed at the moment. We want what is going on right now. And so what's happening is our expectations that, wow, that dopamine release, hey, I got this is fantastic. But then that novelty fades, and then it's a new normal. What's really changing is it's not about the technology, it's about us. It's about our expectations of this new normal. And that has incredible implications for our businesses and for our training, for our employees, because that novelty is going to fade away while the technology just keeps marching on. So technology is evolving, people are evolving, and that means our expectations are evolving. And it's really, this is the age of AI where our expectations are being reset faster and faster than ever before. And so the second piece that we want to talk about is, what does this mean for marketing? Have you noticed already some of these things changing the way that they're getting your attention? Marketing is supposed to amplify some kind of message, right? But when there's so much of it coming at you, it just becomes noise. How do you cut through all that noise? I mean, we've known this for a long time. You cut through the noise by personalizing things. So when I was working retail at the Gap, they told me to start keeping a diary of what my best customers would buy. Some merchandise would come in, and I would say, hey, Mrs. White, I think this would look fantastic on your daughter. Maybe you should come in and pick it up for her. Maybe I'll meet her one day. And so we would keep track of our best customers, and that way, you know, that's coming back. And you felt seen when I was, you know, call you and say, this is something that's perfect. It's just for you. And this is working because who else sees you? Who else treats you with that? It's your family, it's your friends. So you learn this really early on about being relevant, being seen. You know, it can happen in a really simple way when the email says, hi Patrick, I know that it's just a machine, but boy, I'm the one that this email is for. Social identity, it's who I am defined by. I'm not just a baseball fan, I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's personalized to me. Psychological ownership of you know, something that is for us, made for me, I treat it better. Did you know that the furniture that you will hold on to the longest is going to be the furniture you self-assemble? You know, Kelly, we still have that IKEA stuff. It's not our fault, it's psychology. And reciprocity, one good turn does another. So that's why personalization works, from an influence perspective. And it does work. More people are buying when it is personalized. You're actually able to drive up about 40% more, value over the lifetime of the sale. And what's happening with AI is this stuff is about to blow it out of the water. Generative AI in marketing is just getting going. Have any of you seen that you're using ChatGPT, you're looking for some kind of a product and it's serving those things up for you? That is a whole other new kind of commerce. This is called GEO, or Generative Engine Search Optimization. The companies are now going to need a website, not for human eyes, but for the bots. And we spent about a decade, maybe a decade and a half, looking to optimize search engine optimization. That's what you put into Google. But when Google is not your customer anymore and it's a bot, you're going to have to do geo. And this is a whole new way of driving new kinds of revenues and value. It's just getting going. Maybe some of you can identify that you're using it to find new products. Maybe you're asking a bot for some things. And that means that you are going to be contributing to this new kinds of sales, so effectively, bot-to-bot sales and such. Most companies are just getting going, and there's going to be lots of opportunity here, but just like we saw with SEO, geo is going to be the new thing. Now, I can tell you there's a downside to this, though, and I have to illustrate this. I got a phone call from my sister a few days back. She was really surprised about what happened to her. She had a book arrive at her door. You might have heard of it, salt, heat, acid? That's the one. Salt, fat, acid, heat. Yeah, very, very popular book. And she's like, what is going on? It was a beautiful box, it had a great ribbon on it. She opens it up. She does not recognize immediately who it is from. It just so happens that a year before, for their anniversary, they had gone out onto Cape Cod. And it was a boutique hotel. And they had asked some questions about why she was there and what she liked. And of course, she's a culinary foodie, she liked that. And so they sent her that book to remind her to come on back. Now, she said, this is fantastic, but it's also kind of creepy. And she felt the AI ick. Maybe you've been feeling the AI ick a little bit. Maybe I can illustrate for that. So show of hands, do you see an ad or something that AI has done and it feels a little bit creepy, a little bit too close to the truth? Maybe it knows you better than you know yourself. And that's exactly for this reason. It's called the uncanny valley. It was termed actually back in 1971 where, a robot that looks like a robot, we're like, yeah, it's okay, it's a piece of machinery. But when it just looks a little bit like a human, but not quite, it's got 6 fingers, you know that there's a problem. This is the part that you see, but what you feel is that uneasiness of this isn't quite human, but it wants to be human. And this is giving us the AI hit. The AI hit means that it's imitated. It's built probably with some tools very, very fast. So that it looks like it's real, but there's something not quite right. It's often concealed. They don't tell you that it's an AI image. It's a knockoff. It's sometimes mass-produced now by these things, and it's yucky because you were not asked. And if you take this little tool right now, I'll pause for just a second. How much hit have you got? Do you mind when you see content that looks like human, but does it give you the creep when you find out that it's really AI? Is it concealed? Does that bother you? How much? Does it feel like a knockoff that wasn't really, there for you? And is it just yucky? Then you can add that up and you can see, are you allergic to this stuff? Maybe you're aware. Maybe something you don't mind. You're tolerant to it. But the point is that you probably know some of these people and there's a range of these feelings. And if you're a company right now and you're using these tools in an inappropriate way to trick people, then I think we're going to be giving people a lot of ick. Coca-Cola got the ick a few years ago. If you remember this holiday ad, it was all AI generated. Man, they had the backlash because people said it just sucked the warmth out of the holiday. It felt too synthetic. You might be noticing this model, especially if you pay attention. You might see her pitching lots of different types of products. She's not real. They are licensing this image, but it looks like a real model, doesn't it? If you probably saw that feed. I guarantee you there's people in this room, you probably saw that on your social media feed. She is fake. Toys R Us also ran into this. They felt, again, toys should be sacred for the season. And when this was launched, man, they get the backlash. People did not like the synthetic kinds of feel for something that could have been real, could have a real person to it. Now it's okay. I don't know if you follow Michaela. Apparently a lot of people do. Michaela is an AI-generated influencer. There's lots of brands that have her wearing clothes, and she has probably more followers than you on Instagram. You can check that out. But it's disclosed that it is AI, and she's one of the kind of the pioneers. And that's very different than the other examples that I showed you that they didn't quite disclose that AI was being used. And so a lot of people just feel this is icky, this AI being used, but it's not going to go away. It's probably going to, in fact, increase. By the way, evidence is you're no better than a coin flip at telling whether an image is AI. And if you want to, you can come test yourselves out. I do this with my MBAs all the time, and it's amazing how bad we are at figuring out whether it's really AI. But I wanted to give you some things to finish up with. What can you do on Monday morning? What's something that you could maybe start or tell somebody out? Well, geo is coming. We're going to be having bots that are shopping, and sites are going to have to optimize for these things. And these bot customers are definitely a new opportunity for companies. But what about the rest of us? Because I think that we don't want to be treated like a bot. There's got to be something better for us. Trust is our competitive advantage. If you're in business today or you want to have a better relationship, we better lean into things that make us unique. Because right now there is a difference. There's a few companies out there that are doing this right with the tools, and the rest of them are not yet using the tools, but they soon are. They're all going to be doing this with the bots and with all kinds of AI. The thing is, this is not a winning proposition. What wins is when the brands lean into that trust factor, that authenticity that we all desire as humans. That is one charming chicken right there. And when we lean into the things that make us unique, that really differentiate us, not using the tools, but using the tools in an authentic way, we win. So the chicken is winning in a way that the pig and the goat simply just are not. Because the gap is really human. It's really what it is connecting us. And so you might have seen these, the 5 C's. My university has a model. So these are the things that we are uniquely better at, I would say, than the AI. Our creativity, our curiosity, our critical thinking, our collaboration, and our communication. If we lean into these things, we are authentically human. And I think brands, the business that we do business with, are better off by leaning into these things. But this is kind of like what we do. I wanted to look at what it is that the brands do, and I knew that the gap was one more constant. It was about this thing, a gap of prevention. It just so happens that the first book that I worked with back early in my career with Accenture, this is 2001. Yeah, I'm this time old. Maybe that was me on the book cover. What we did at Accenture is we figured out in the modern economy, attention is the scarcest resource. Isn't that true? Right now, you're paying with your collaborative. You're giving me your attention. I am so grateful. And I'm also giving you mine. And so there's something special going on here. This is really the scarcest resource in business. If you can get your customers' attention on something, they buy. If you can get your employees' attention on something, they do. And so we need to figure out how we can use AI better to capture and scale attention. It turns out there's 3 pairs or types of attention, and I'll get into very quickly. There's front of mind attention or active attention. This is hopefully what I'm getting from you right now. But I know some of you are thinking about what you're going to do later. As soon as the talk is over, you're out of here. That's your back of mind or passive attention. You also have attention that's voluntary. There were these things back in the day called a magazine. And in a magazine, you could control when you went back and forwards, you could start at the end, you could go to the front. This is voluntary attention that you would have when you are in control. But there's also captive attention. In the movie theater, what's the thing that happens before the main show starts? The lights go down and the sound comes up, and you're not supposed to be paying attention to something else in the room. And so that is your captive attention network. We also have attractive attention. We love beautiful things, beautiful babies, and good relationships. But we're also worried about something bad happening to us. Like, there's a snake in my boot. That would be aversive attention. So these are the 6 different types of attention. And the thing about it is that with AI, these are going to matter more than ever before. Imagine a surfer. You're out on the water. You're looking for that perfect wave. Now, there's lots of waves, but most of them just sort of pass by until you see it. that perfect wave, that one that you want to take, suddenly your attention is front of mind or active. It is voluntary because you want to be doing this and you are absolutely attracted to this. It's an awesome wave. You can't wait to surf that. Or if you see a tsunami on your way, then that's aversive and you better get out there. So you can understand a lot in business if you can understand the different six types of attention and what's going on. So I think that with AI, it's going to get harder to manage this scarce resource, and we need to do it appropriately, because I think we don't need more AI. We need a better mousetrap. We need a new strategy. See, I got my mousetrap in there. In the marketing era, in this era of AI, I think that we need to be ensuring that we're crafting appropriate messaging and solutions for our customers. We need to be contacting them in the real world, not just digitally. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. Building community is going to be even more important in the future. Having conviction about what we're about, what we stand for, what we do as a mission, vision, values, and have credibility. And if you put these together, this is the new world for all of us, also as customers. I think that's what's really exciting. You know this company, Wayfair? It was a digital online place that you could get furniture and all that. You know what they're doing? They're building stores now because they want to have fellowship with us, because they have seen the same problem. How are we going to manage attention in the age of AI? The answer is be real, be authentic, be present. We also see that there are companies like this Cordy Cafe. They are offering insurance to startups in the Silicon Valley, a lot of digital. They are building coffee places for people to come and have fellowship and get work done at all hours. So it's getting real. It's not getting digital and fake. You might know about these companies, The Gap, or you probably have one of these services. They want influencers that are telling real stories. So I'm very heartened by this. I think we're going to have the opportunity to tap into what really makes us unique as humans, because that's what's going to cut through the noise. And that means that by crafting, contacting, and building community, having conviction and credibility, that's going to bust this Red Queen and Alice effect. And that's probably better for all of us. We're going to be more uniquely human, and having VIP clubs and having unique experiences like this, like today. How special it is that we're all together. So I really appreciate your fellowship. I think we're doing that. So this is the time that I had. I just want to touch on a few of these things. I showed you a little bit about how AI is changing our expectations, what it's doing to marketing, that we're really going to have this new era of AI, and maybe some things that we can start doing, which is going to be about being uniquely us and a little bit less digital, a little bit more real. I'll leave you with this. Einstein said, with all of this stuff going on, he had no special talent. He is just passionately curious. And I think this is no more true then as it is today, probably more true. Be passionately curious. Don't let this stuff intimidate you. These are things that you can lean into and grow in. And I think reset our expectations of what's out there. And I'm encouraged because I think that you are even greater than AI. Thank you.